Dr. Strangelove by David Rivera. Dr. Strangelove is directed by Stanley Kubrick, who was born in Manhattan in 1928. He began his career in the film and photography industry at the age of 17 as a photographer for Look magazine. However, he was always fascinated with movies, and he began as a one-man band by financing, directing, producing, writing, shooting, and editing 3 short documentaries in his early career. However, it wasn't until 1954 when he got his big break by moving to LA and his career began to grow. He made a production company and made his first film, The Killing, by the year 1956. Several years later, Kubrick achieved a mythic status with his film Doctor Strangelove. Doctor Strangelove features a popular film technique for its time which was New French Wave, which was invented in the 1950s. The New French Wave features new styles and techniques that reflect the era, such as social and political upheavals and ironic ways of exploring new themes. Another common theme of New French Wave is to feature long single scenes without many cuts. This makes it a little bit easier to edit, and as seen in Doctor Strangelove, a lot of the scenes take place in the same setting for long periods of time. So first, I just want to give a brief summary about Doctor Strangelove, or the longer title that it's known for, Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. So this film is a war comedy which takes place during the Cold War when there was a lot of tension between the United States and the Soviet Union. General Jack Ripper orders an attack on the Soviet Union by issuing Plan R, which gives him authority to order an attack on a certain location. So he decided to order an attack on the Soviet Union, and throughout the whole film, a lot of generals and even the president are trying to figure out how to stop this war and how to figure out what the code is to stop the planes from going to their destination. By the end of the film, they figure out what the code is. However, there is one plane that still did not receive the orders to stop the strike because their communication systems was blown up, and they end up throwing a nuke on the location in the Soviet Union, and this causes a nuclear apocalypse, and the film ends with a montage of nuclear explosions while also playing a love song. There are several interesting film techniques that Kubrick uses throughout the film. One being that he films the whole movie in black and white, uh, even though color film was already invented. Kubrick created this black and white film because he wanted to develop shadows and techniques to add some positive aesthetics to the movie. The low angle close-ups on General Ripper when he is smoking, which occurs several times throughout the film, parallels with his power position throughout the film, since he's the one that has the code to stop the attack. Also, another technique he used was to have Peter Sellers play 3 roles in the film. He plays Captain Mandrake, he also plays the President, and Dr. Strangelove, who is an ex-Nazi scientist hired by the President to be his scientific advisor. So I felt that this was an interesting technique because the actor is able to showcase his different roles and different position of powers between each role that he's playing. Also, an interesting technique that Kubrick uses is he uses satire to tell a story of a man who essentially goes crazy and decides to start a nuclear war because he thought that the Soviet Union was putting fluoride in the water of the United States, and he thought that was a good reason to start the nuclear war. So a common theme in the film is war and violence. Throughout the film, you see a lot of like different shootings and a lot of gory scenes throughout the film. Essentially, what this teaches is it teaches the audience a deeper meaning between what war and violence is. And aside from being a comedy, the film also teaches the audience a lesson about war, politics, and history, and can serve as a teaching aid for different international relations and foreign policy that causes war. I think this film also puts a lot of emphasis on the faults of war because there are people who are in high positions of power who could easily start a very violent war by just simply sending one little code. Also, interesting theme was that the code to stop the nuclear war was an abbreviation for Peace on Earth, POE, and I thought that was ironic because for to stop basically a war was an abbreviation for peace. So there was two interesting questions that the film raised that I wanted to bring attention to. One being is that it represented how fragile the world was at the time. So during the time of the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union, there was a lot of tension between the two. People were in fear of there was going to be a nuclear apocalypse at any moment, and children even practiced nuclear drills in school where they would hide under their desks. So during the time of this Cold War, there was a lot of tension, there was a lot of fighting, a lot of anger, and I feel like the film carried that over because there was a lot of tension and hatred towards the anybody who came into the film that was Russian, and it was just really interesting how it showcased that in the film. I think another question that the film raised was it kind of points at the type of people we have in power to control the basically the launch codes and the people who are elected to take control of the country, and it kind of pokes like fun and makes a mockery of the people that we put our faith into to not kill us all, because people like the president who we elect had access to a lot of launch codes and has access to the military, and we just put so much blind faith in these people. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you leave with a better understanding of what the film is and some different themes that the film uses, and attached are the references that I used.